Now, I'm going to do a little bit of an introduction just so we all know who everyone is sitting on pop stools here. Andrew Warden, beautifully outfitted, VP Marketing for Semrush. Thank you very much, Semrush, for hosting us today. It's great to be a partner of an organisation that's making great strides in helping us all find our customers and our clients, which is very important. Adam Collins, CCO of Reddit. Welcome, Adam. Reddit has suddenly become something that is much more visible in my LLM searches than it used to be in my SEO searches, which is very interesting. So we'll get on to all of that. Suddenly Reddit has always been a powerhouse of community content, but now is actually a powerhouse in LLM discovery, which is really interesting. And Carmen True, SVP, HB Solutions Marketing. My career started in the 1990s before everyone in this room was born, or in this beautiful villa. And how did you discover newspapers? I've been a journalist for decades. How did you discover newspapers? You walked to a thing called a shop. You looked at a shelf. There were things on the shelf called newspapers. You looked at the newspapers. You chose a newspaper. You went to a place called the till. You got cash out and you bought the newspaper. That's how you discovered newspapers. Before the internet, before any digital technology, we knew nothing about our audiences. We just wrote the stuff we thought was important and we put it out into the market. It was a very simple, but also unnourishing, unaudience-focused world journalism used to live in. And now it's completely and utterly changed. And we've got to another fulcrum moment. We've had the internet, we've had smartphones, we've had social media, and now a new fulcrum moment, which is artificial intelligence and particularly agentic AI, and how that changes the rules of discovery. So, Andrew, if I could come to you first around the discovery issue. Mm-hmm. What AI enables us to do is have almost endless optionality. We can build things rapidly. Mm-hmm. We can test 300 things when before we could test 5 things. When there's so much, the word is sometimes noise. I don't mean noise, because noise can be useful and it can be really good and it can be of substance. But how do you discover or ensure that you are able to be discovered in a world where the creation of content, product, opportunity is now so much wider than it was before?
I think it's a big question, huge questions. First of all, so thanks for the big curveball right away. So I would say that in a world where there is endless content opportunity, or some are now calling it AI slop. I think it's like what I've been hearing lately, like so much generative, so much content.
Yeah.
The most critical thing to be discovered is to make sure that your brand is showing up authentically on first-party and third-party sources like Reddit, like others. We know that in order to be discovered by LLMs, you also must have the technical foundations of SEO in place. For about 18 months, we've been trying to settle this debate in the industry. Does SEO matter anymore? Do we even need websites? The answer is categorically yes. Mm-hmm. Because unless you have all of the technical foundations in place, LLMs won't know what to trust, and you'll be wiped out of the conversation. So for me, it's really about how everyone is showing up as a true, authentic brand and making sure that your customers are echoing the same.
When you talk about first party, so talk about first party and third party.
Sure.
Are those different? How do you operate in those two places differently?
So they shouldn't be different. I think this is the key point. So first party, of course, is your own branded site, everything that you control within your universe. And what has become so critical, especially in the last 12 months, you can have the best brand messaging, the best branded events and content out there. But if for some reason your customers or your product documentation living on third-party sites is clashing with those messages, it creates an AI dissonance. And this is where the noise or the kind of slop, sorry, it's not a very elegant word, but this is where you get kind of canceled out of the conversation and then you're not cited or mentioned. And so this is very, very, very big point.
Yeah. Adam, tell me about the Reddit journey, because it has
it created an enormous positive effect on the impact of Reddit on conversations, because more traditional SEO would not foreground Reddit in the way that I now get from my LLM search. Because your material is available and not walled, it means that what happens on your site is now of vital importance when you get to GEO rather than SEO. Just to Andrew's point around SEO still mattering as well as GEO, how is Reddit thinking about how it operates in this market? Because you are just much more visible.
Yeah, it's a great question, and we get versions of this quite a bit. And the thing I try to tell people is that at the end of the day, your audience is still human, right? The people you're trying to speak to are human. And I think as AI becomes more ubiquitous in all of our lives, the value of human content, the value of human connection, rather, grows higher and higher and higher. I think that's what we're seeing, right? So there's a reason that Reddit is growing from a user base standpoint. I think the reason is that people are seeking out real conversations. Those real conversations are also, as we have seen, valuable to AI companies. But that really what makes it special, what makes it work, is the fact that it is people having conversations about, whatever's going on in their life. Could be a mega passion, could be a niche issue. And we see that every day. There's 40% of the conversations that happen on Reddit are commercial in nature. It's restaurants. I'm going to this town.
Yeah.
I'm looking for this kind of food.
Yeah.
Where should I go? It could be my washing machine broke. Is it fixable? Do I need to buy a new one? Or I'm looking to buy a car. There's literally a subreddit called "What car should I buy?" And so a ton. If you think about our lives and what we go about every day, a ton of conversation, a ton of what we do is somehow commercial in nature. Those conversations are happening on Reddit, and I think they're being surfaced in more and more ways. But the underpinning of it all is that it's all human conversation, human connection.
Adam, how is that changing the sort of brand of Reddit? Does it mean that many more brands now want to try and partner with Reddit in some way, which of course would change the fundamental notion of what Reddit is, and would be many Reddit users would be reject Reddit, the brand?
I think the thing that makes Reddit is that we don't change who we are, and we really haven't. We turned 21 yesterday, so we could legally drink last. But that's what makes Reddit special. We don't change with the whims of the time. We're here. We're a free speech first platform where people can come and have conversations that are meaningful and important to them. Whether it's users or brands, more and more people are seeing the value of Reddit and seeing the value of participating in Reddit, either through paid ads or through conversation. The platform itself is fundamentally thinking differently about who we are and what we are. You lose that special sauce, you lose the authenticity, and ultimately it drives people away.
And just one thing to add, I think the such a critical point when you say 40% of conversations on Reddit are commercial in nature. Even with all of this disruption and opportunity with AI search, with SEO, with GEO, with brand visibility, remember the core fundamental of human behavior will never go away. People 100%. Will always be searching for things. People will always be seeking out to purchase things, to inquire about your opinion about something, a recommendation or a referral. I got really stuck into this with L'Oreal the other evening on a different panel about, in beauty, it's all about referrals, and it's all about how a product makes you feel, right? And having that just be the proliferation of that content on Reddit, again, number 2 cited source for LLMs. Anyway, I just think it's a really good thing to remember, even with all the disruption and opportunity. At the core, the human behavior of searching and seeking out things, it will never change.
There's this great nugget, and sorry, just to build on that we had this week with some new data. It's a new entry point for people as they're on their purchase journey, right? People go in and they're whatever your thing you're trying to buy or a service you're looking for, they start on a ChatGPT or they start on a Gemini. 50% of people are coming to Reddit to validate the information they've gotten before they make a purchase, before they actually take that step. And it's exactly the point you're making. Where can I go to get that final decision that I can trust? And it's a person, it's another human being who's had the same experience, who's been in the same place, who's been making the same type of purchase decision, and is willing to share that with within their community.
And this tracks for me because we know, according to Semrush research, that even when you show up in search, an AI search, in an LM, only 13% of the time is your branded site actually mentioned. So what you're saying tracks. People go to Reddit, they jump, it's a jumping off point and continue their research.
Yeah. Carmen, can I come to you? And you've recently come back to HP and you're in the B2B side of this debate. I think it's really interesting around the human desire for search. I think the role of humans has been one of the big discussion points here. Who thought we would get to a world where we were discussing the kind of role of the fundamental role of humanity is being challenged by technology, which I think is a fascinating and positive, but also sometimes scary debate. But Carmen, for you, B2B, how the AI world, and we're going to get on to agentic AI, which I wonder Andrew challenges a little bit about the human in the loop, because the human won't be anywhere near when algorithm is doing the search. But one second, I'll just get to Carmen. Carmen, tell us in the B2B world how AI is affecting the way you are thinking about discovery and ensuring your relationships with your own customers.
Yes. So it's a super important question because a lot of times we think about it in the context solely of a B2C environment and the quickness of some of those decisions. But B2B marketing has actually, in fairness, a much harder job to do than a B2C landscape. And so there's so many more touch points in that conversation around B2B. And so when we think through like HP, we have one of the strongest brands available in the world today, the founders of Silicon Valley. So from a brand perspective, we already elude a lot of trust. We have a lot of preference. We would show up on an RFP in a B2B space very easily. But the business that I'm coming to help grow and support are new businesses that we have not traditionally operated in. And so the depth of what's changing from a search perspective is really important because it's going to help give us more of the rounded flavor of consideration for new areas of business that we're not in. And so the depth of content, places that we show up, and messages that we craft can first lean into the brand and the trust that we already have, but open up the aperture for consideration in new spaces where traditionally people have not thought about HP playing, or we played and they just weren't aware of it. And search is just as important in a B2B environment as it is in B2C. People don't realize that. So I'll give you examples of even our Polycom business, that's video collaboration software. Very specifically, when our channel partners are going to recommend our solutions to one of their customers have to be able to look us up, see the depth. The web has to come up. The web plays a super important role. We have to show up like the brand HP is and connect that to the Poly infrastructure. So that's one example. The other I would give is deeper type content. So we have another platform, which is a digital experience platform, a software platform. People are learning, they can think about HP as a software and solution provider, but we had to go for deeper elements of type of content. So our WXP platform just won Gartner's Magic Quadrant as a leader after being in the business for 2 years. So that's an example of additional depth of content, why that's important, both decision-making, but also in that search and trusted partner content. So those are just two examples.
I think that broadening of consideration, it can get you to more places so that more markets that maybe you couldn't have hand cranked your visibility can be helped enormously by AI. When algorithm is the first touch point for search and agentic AI, how does that change? I'll come back to you, Andrew, about the human element, but how are you thinking? Because there have been these quite deep conversations around this change from AI in the chat, i.e. you're prompting it, you can see it, it is visible, it comes back to you, Carmen, and gives you options. It comes back to your teams and talk to them like a character around a table. Yes. But the character around the table is going to go into the kitchen and actually bring you the meals, and you're not going to be in the kitchen with the character.
Yes.
So when the algorithm takes over the initial touch points before anyone even gets to the consideration moment, how does that change how you think about the humanity of the team and the humanity and the human relationships and the notion of searching out good solutions?
Yes. So I think this is a fundamental question that we as a marketing community have to remember in this process. There's really only been a few times from what's changing the tech landscape that changes how we actually work internally as marketing organizations. In the past, search kind of existed, or SEO, in a silo to the far left, driving demand. This has totally transformed how we actually have to partner and work together in organizations. You can't operate in a comm silo and not connect over to what the core message is on the web. What are the messages that are getting out there from an article perspective, or what are our executives saying when they're doing videos on LinkedIn, and how's that showing up? The strength and the tightness of the narrative and the message and what we want in the environment is really essential. And the people that are going to be successful in this space are the ones that have really fluid, organic teams that trust and partner together and can work across the lines of organizations to really have that business growth mindset in space and adapt. Always be auditing what's going on out there. What are you hearing? What is it looking at? What is that doing for you before you get there? And working in partnership on team across disciplines. The SEO guy used to be in the bottom corner in the back and not super well paid.
I want to treble on down what you're saying, because it's so funny. We're kind of internally joking about this as kind of like a revenge of the nerds moment, for the SEOs. Always been very highly technical, very performance marketing driven, all of these things. But actually now, people who have been working in organic growth and online visibility or brand visibility now, these are the first people that I call. Not quite every morning, but as a CMO, like every other morning, because now there is so much more data available that they can actually go and influence virtually every channel of acquisition. And so, to your point, it's not only about the opportunity, but it's like an imperative.
Yes.
If you're not empowering, like you say, the team that used to be all the way far on the left or whatever direction you want, if you're not boosting those people right now and making sure that they have the resources they need and the organizational support. And that goes beyond marketing, by the way. It has to be with product, with customer success, even legal. You'd be surprised, where everyone shows up. If you don't have those signals aligning, again, you are wiped out. And I just find that so fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Andrew, how are you thinking? Andrew, what are you thinking around? Is there a difference between, well, there is a difference, but how substantial is it between SEO and what we're now calling GEO? And how did we change our approaches? This is a real top of mind issue for the media industry, of course, around discovery.
Well, especially in publishing.
Yeah, in publishing.
Yes, of course.
I
would say that this is an evolution of SEO. I think like I said, for the past year and a half, there's been, I would say, a lot of consternation around, what's going on in the industry. Like funnels have disappeared, organic traffic, especially for publishers, completely wiped out. Just being vulnerable for a moment, as a CMO for almost 5 years of Semrush and now with Adobe, we exist to help companies be discoverable. Mm-hmm. And even I lost our traffic. Imagine being in this position. Imagine your board saying, and I actually thought maybe this would even be a moment where that could be a kind of a game over situation, because the entire industry has just been turned upside down. And that's how it started. And now everyone's moved more to, now we have all this cool shit to play with. So it's been this kind of emotional roller coaster, I would say, from most. But to your point, it's an evolution of SEO into GEO and what we now call ultimately brand visibility. And there's also a new way, since you mentioned the Magic Quadrant, with Adobe Brand Visibility, we now have a way to measure, which we believe so far, I haven't been checked, be happy to be corrected, but there's no other attribution model out there to prove from prompt down to conversion to revenue and return on brand visibility. Trying to make that a thing,
cool.
like
yes,
ROAS.
For sure,
return,
yes.
I don't know how to say it. Yeah, ROAS really rolls off the tongue, but I don't know.
You'll get there. We'll work on that for you.
Someone please help me. Someone who's better at marketing. But in any case,
what's your email again?
Anyone can have it. It's all public. But yeah, I think it's really a significant evolution. And now that we didn't expect that, it just happened a couple months ago. Now 58%, the majority of traffic now, is bot traffic. And so, to your point about being human and authentic, we also have to make sure that everything we're putting out there, we really have two audiences. We have our consumers, our customers, the ones we love, but now we have to also show love to agents, and it's a totally different ballgame. Fascinating.
Yeah, and let me bring you in. Just one thing is, The Economist, for example, now has two sites.
Yes.
one for agents
Yes.
to read what the economist
Yes.
is doing, and one
Yes.
for
Yes.
their human readers to read. I mean,
Yeah.
Adam, how are you thinking about this change in when connection is going to be almost in a way 50% human and 50% agentic AI? And what does that mean for discoverability and trust underlines a lot of this? Because we know that I was at dinner last night with Demesis Arbis at DeepMind. We know that there's fallibility in the system.
Humans are never going to be out of the loop in entirety. It just the prompt is going to. There's still look. If to use your analogy, if you've got some point in the future that there's just a bot that's bringing you your dinner, how does it know what you want to eat? There is some behavior, there is some prompt that you were involved with, or you as the consumer who's eating that dinner is going to be really unhappy when you receive something that you're allergic to or you don't like, or you didn't want that night, right? And so the human is always there, either on the front end or the back end, or I personally think most likely both. And to both of your points, sort of trying to pull those together, you have to be more thoughtful and more cohesive of the story you're telling across the different spectrums, right? But the human's always going to be there. Ultimately, we live in a human world, right? And I do think, more specifically back to your question, I do think that the value of human connection is going to continue to go up as it feels increasingly scarce or increasingly rare in the world around us. The value of sitting down and having these funny moments. The world is messy.
So
Your shoe falls off. That happens. I think it's not an accident that over the last few years, and I don't believe it's just post-COVID, that live events have gone up in interest.
yeah.
Is because as AI is around us more and more and more, as you have the influencer economy that feels like it inundates you, and you're not sure if what someone's telling you to buy or someone's telling you to do or someone's telling you the experience is authentic or real, or it's what they've been paid to tell you. The value of being able to sit down with other people who have shared interest, shared professions, shared passions, and have a real authentic conversation, I think is going to become more and more valuable.
I have a funny story to put a pin in that. Okay, we're sitting up here on this panel because we are, we're at the top of our game in our businesses. Okay, so we've earned credit to sit here.
I thought we were here because we were beautiful.
We are beautiful too. And we have
Not
good
mutually
personalities.
exclusive. Not mutually exclusive.
But so I was in a session yesterday with an agency and working through all the models and all of that. And we gave some prompts and some challenges to it. And it gave us back a competitive response, great on other suggestions. But me in my position looking at it, it left out our core number one competition. It gave a great plan for the number two. It left out number one. And this is a lot of money, a lot of investment, a lot of things going into it. So the reality of our human nature and our judgment and our knowledge and experience, and it will have its limitations on what can it access. Can it access things that are founded in what kind of journalism? There's the balance between the human conversation in the restaurant I'm looking for versus the journalistic point of view, and how do you have those matches come in? That is still where our time, our experience, and our judgment as humans come into the play. Like me sitting there, I'm like, you missed our core competition and these three different other factors. So those pieces and the depth of the knowledge of story is still a play. So I just put it out there because it's the human and there's still value in us. Like that's not going away anytime soon.
I think, Andrew, your point about AI slop, I think, is right. But I call it more the mediocrity trap. It's not slop, which I think that sounds too negative. People know how to avoid slop because it's rubbish, and no one wants that. You're absolutely right. Who wants your AI chef to come out and give you a bad meal? That's not going to happen. But what if your AI meal is sort of okay and always slightly the same because it's always looking through the rear view mirror rather than looking ahead? I went to the World Media Forum in Taiwan a couple of years ago, and the head of photography for AFP made a brilliant point. AI will never be able to put up a tripod in a typhoon because it won't understand what it's trying to do. It's about humanity and the ability of us to react to a massive crisis, respond in the right way, and be human about it, which is what I've just done. So that's going to be a brownie point for me. But Andrew, I'm talking about how do you avoid the mediocrity trap? This sort of 6 maybe 7 out of 10, but never the real breakthrough moment. We had an event with Stad Guy, who is the guy who gently takes the mickey out of the hyper wealthy in a most beautiful way. Millions of followers on TikTok, Instagram, and now he's got brand relationships with Bentley and all sorts of great brands. And he just started that as a joke he shared with his mates on WhatsApp. And it was so good, it was then shared to someone else, and then it got onto socials, and then he's blown up, and now he's a brand and a business in himself with his own business lines. That's serendipity. AI is never going to think of that. How do you stop that 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10 being just good enough when it comes to thinking about marketing?
I think for me, this is where it goes back to just sheer talent on the team. I think right now, especially for those in organic marketing and performance marketing, this is a massive moment for upskilling. And I don't take it for granted, with our teams at Adobe and elsewhere. And it's also a moment to be extra encouraging of the team, because you have to imagine that, if you've been working in this space for the last 2 years, your whole life has completely changed. You can literally no longer prove to your boss what you do is traceable, has return on investment, and literally the funnel has just evaporated, clicks disappear, all of these things. So for me, I think, especially as you say, to avoid the mediocrity, this is where we need the human intervention. And I slightly disagree that there isn't enough of this. What was the more elegant way? Not slop, but the mediocrity trap. But I actually think a lot of brands are falling into that. Like, I think this is where there's another point of differentiation, especially when it comes to brand visibility and everything that LLMs are ingesting about you. I think it was at South by Southwest. I was giving a talk, and I won't disclose the names, but basically we had done some study of 5 different water companies, provide bottled or canned water. And when you go and ask Claude, GPT, blah, 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 they all say the same exact thing about themselves, except for one company, which water comes in, not this can, but another can that you might know, became a huge brand overnight, because they had such a strong differentiation of message, of packaging. But literally everyone in that space is talking about the mineral quality, and it's so, and that's where you become bland.
That sort of sameness, the sameness,
right? So we call that the bland tax, and the bland tax is where you are just completely part of the sameness in your category, and that's your opportunity. And this is where you also have to push legal to be like, hey, we need to we need to be a little bit edgier or show up a little bit differently. Yes. And that's why I'm saying, lean on your SEOs, lean on your performance marketers. They now have the data that show not only the gaps in what you're showing up for in AI search, but also how to fix it. Like, we know that now. Last week we launched Adobe Brand Visibility. We can now, we literally created an easy button to go and create the content that is not mediocre. Yeah. So for me, it's like a game
Carmen,
changer.
let's go to this return on investment issue. Yeah. We know the sad reality is that the marketing line, in an era of looking for efficiency, the marketing line is often the easiest one to cut.
Yes.
You're not shutting down a factory. You're not laying off 5,000 people in a nation. It's one of those ones where marketing sort of dies slowly, but not always visibly. You only know it after you've killed it. Carmen, in the C-suite conversation and that notion of fluidity, which I think is so essential now, getting out of the silos into a horizontal model of enterprise growth, how do you stop the instinct of companies to say, can't we just ease back on the marketing, because it's all kind of being done by AI now and it's going to kind of be able to work itself? Carmen, can't you do it with half the budget we give you?
Yes. So I think one of the fantastic things actually about what's happening right now is this conversation around this technology shift is happening holistically to all of the businesses and to the world. And so most of the time when we talk about marketing, it's our silo, it's in the lane over here, and we're justifying big brand spend or advertising spend or money that goes in places they don't see. And so the shift now is that the conversation is actually something at the C-suite. They understand more what's happening and the impact that it can have, but also the impact it can have for the business holistically. So it definitely comes back to that, can't you do it cheaper? Can't you do it this way? Can't you use that instead? But what's starting to evolve in the time frame of when this first came out to now really leans on the element that the talent that you have, the strategy that you do, and the strength of it holistically is what's going to be at play and coming at it in new ways. So in the past, search would have been a clear spend to ROI conversation. And those with the biggest budgets were going to be the winners. What's shifted now actually is the broader depth around marketing more holistically and the benefit that that actually brings. So even the Reddit conversation before, take the brand spend or ad spend out of Reddit and think of Reddit as the core platform of conversation and communications, where B2B brands and experiences or B2C can actually influence that and participate. In the past, they maybe weren't paying that much attention, right? Now you need actually people to go monitor the forums, communicate, and have your brand show up like you want your brand to show up, and demonstrating that all the way through. So we have more disciplines that are actually going to need to be served in this space than less. AI images and those types of things are there, the word searching, but all of it actually expands the types of disciplines that exist in marketing that we had before.
Carmen, can I share a little secret that you shared with me in the car on the way up?
Sure.
To Carmen, yeah, so I'm a journalist here. Always got to share little secrets. You are a finance degree holder.
Yes, I am.
So you actually can speak the language of finance, which I think is so essential that you're able to have a conversation with the CFO and the finance teams that they think, hey, she's got our back because she understands our language. And I think there was a very interesting point made on another panel I was on. Someone said that one of their key KPIs is that every team leader spends 20% of their time helping another team outside their division be successful. And I thought that was a really nice way of thinking about it. But Carmen, how important is it? We should have some CFOs here next year, Andrew. How important is it to be able to speak finance?
Super important. So when I think about it from a marketing metrics perspective, we get all in our heads about our space. But if you boil up the conversation, what you're trying to do is drive revenue on behalf of your company, bottom line. And so when you shift the adjustment of the conversation to driving revenue and what does marketing do to impact the revenue, what's our connection to it, where are the places we help, and you ask for money in a way that ties it to revenue, and you put it as a choice point available to them, then you have a much stronger conversation and discussion around getting the backing. And this also helps from the aspect of these new capabilities that need to be built, what's going to be that ROI on it, but talk about the ROI in terms of core revenue that you're driving. So for me, actually, that's where I found actually some of my best friends to help our marketing efforts is actually in our CFO office and our sales office, because that's really what we're here doing in marketing. We own the brand element, which we've talked about, and the confidence around it, but all of that comes together to build up and drive the strength of the company and enable revenue.
Love to get some questions from the floor. Would be absolutely lovely if anyone would like to raise their hands in the traditional non-AI manner. But Andrew, just want to pick up.
I'm going to be a mic runner.
Andrew, would you any thoughts on that
the finance
question about the lingo and the point is made, isn't it, that CMOs need to be multilingual, i.e. speak the language of every division.
But I also think that it is some kind of fallacy that they're not. I'm sorry, but I don't have a finance degree. I have a policy degree from London School of Economics. I can hang. I got a first in stats. I can hang. Does it mean that I'm a data scientist? No, but I have two chief data scientists on staff who I trust almost with my life on channel performance. And each time I speak with them, I say, "Talk to me like a Labrador." I'm not kidding, because I learn from them every week. And it's been almost 5 years. And I think that the most critical part is that, I think it depends on the type of CMO. I think that if someone is so over indexed on brand, it's true. It can be difficult to speak the lingo. But I would argue that most CMOs today, because of the imperative around SEO, AI, brand visibility, performance marketing. I mean, especially CMOs of SaaS companies, there's an enormous revenue share and contribution, hundreds of millions of ARR, annual recurring revenue. So like the idea that not everyone has the lingo or has the capability, I think is a bit, I think it was definitely an issue kind of pre-COVID, but I think when everything kind of accelerated and there was so much thrust into digital, that kind of changed the imperative for CMOs to be like, okay, we better get even more serious now. So I just I don't mean to challenge, but I just think,
I don't mean it to be that hasn't happened, but I think that there's an interesting question for all C-suite members about being much more connected horizontally.
Completely agree, because the bottom line, especially with brand visibility, is this is now a board level imperative.
Yes.
I mean, everyone is turning to the CMO saying, I'm searching for our products. I don't see them. Fix it. Yes. That's their fix it. That's literally what, I get text message screenshots from CMOs and then say, Andrew, help. How do I fix it? Yes. And it's such a big deal. And there's so much visibility on your visibility. Mm-hmm. So you're right that there needs to be this kind of common lingo and common understanding. But again, we have this moment. It kind of happens every 8 years where we say, CMOs, it's time to step up. And this is a moment because now you have to step up and get cross-channel communication.
Mm-hmm.
I think,
are these the only mics we have?
Real quick,
Adam, you carry on.
I think the biggest thing, and I'm not a CMO, obviously, but in communications, has also gone through a big transformation over the last 10 to 15 years as a profession. And I think the thing is, more important than the lingo is, do you share the same objective? Do you share the same goal? Mm-hmm. It's exactly your point. If you can go to your CFO and say, my interest is not in making my team bigger or making myself look better or doing these things that feel fancy or nice or it's creative. I know we're at a creative festival. My interest is in helping the business grow. We have the same objective. This is the pathway that my team and that I can help this company do that. That's a winning argument, much more than do you speak the exact same language.
You said something really interesting on our briefing call, Andrew, about when we talk about LLMs, when we talk about GEO, the way we're interacting with ChatGPT, with Claude, is still in its early infancy. So we did a panel yesterday with Elka Carsons from OpenAI. ChatGPT is 3 years old, and the way we're using it is akin to dial-up or the early stage of your desktop computer. What you said on our call was, what happens when the relationship we have with our LLMs becomes deeper and richer and more emotional? And I'm finding that at the moment. So I'm trying to buy a push present for my wife. And I'm not just going to my AI, hey, what would be good? What would be great? I'm saying, oh, she likes this. And actually went on holiday and this was this. So that relationship is a lot deeper.
Well, we were talking about the intimacy that's being forged.
Exactly.
Yes, yeah. And thank you for also calling me out for getting one of my talking points. I appreciate it. I super appreciate it and the prompt. But in all seriousness, no, I think this is the thing that I want to get to actually next week. I want to get more data on literally dwell time in LLMs. And I find it so crazy that none of us are talking about this. I mean, remember when social came out, right? And then people are still just completely stuck into reels and all of this kind of. And think about how intimate your relationship is with GPT, with Claude, with anyone, and you spend hours talking to these things, And in the not so distant future, these agents will learn so much about you. You'll say, I need a push present. And you'll get 3 recommendations. And if you're, bullish enough and you give it your credit card, it might even arrive before you know it. And and it's funny. It is funny, but that's also that's like in the next 12 months. And so really we are, that's why I insist that we are marketing to humans, of course, our consumers, but also to agents.
Absolutely right. And it's interesting. Last night, Demis said it's very hard to know when the curve is almost vertical when you intercept the curve because you're immediately out of date. So you think, right, I'm going to go and do this thing and I'm going to commit to this thing. And in a month's time, this thing is an old thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think your point, Nate, is really, it's very challenging for across the C-suite and within organizations as well to understand where's the moment where I commit. How do you think about that, Carmen, when you have, where you intercept the curve when the curve is doing this?
Well, I think the uniqueness about this time and environment is everything is changing so fast that there's a piece of it where an element that we have to break through with all of our organizations, our teams, and ourselves is the courage to do new things and to experiment and do them differently, and also have that open conversation at the C-suite about it. Because in that space, the curve is just changing so drastically and so fast. It's not like SEO that was around for years and you had all the perfect metrics and you knew what to call it, right? Right now, we're in the frame where we can change how we're framing and how we're calling this industry and what it's going to be and those capabilities. And so we're in this unique time where this is our chance, actually. For people who are all spectrums of marketing, this is our chance to frame what this is going to be like, frame how we interact with it, ask the technology leaders what we need from them and suggest things that we need from them in order to make it successful for us all around.
And also push back on your CFO. Because this is the moment actually where making any critical changes in investments, just because something changes overnight, it's the worst move to make. Mm-hmm. And like I'm just saying, I've personally had those conversations, also had coaching conversations with other CMOs and their CFOs. The idea of, okay, this is evaporated, we should stop doing this, we should pause. To your point, when you hit the curve, it's a big mistake that I see a lot of brands making now of like divesting in certain areas, and then literally 12 months later they come back and say it's another oh shit moment.
Yeah.
We broke something.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing, Andrew, in our industry is that analog magazines, they're back.
Yes.
People want those non-digitally connected moments. So I'm off to interview now Edward Enninful, and we're going to be talking about EE72, his new magazine, plus his new, it's a digital integration, but the magazine is still core. The analog moment, the human is back.
That's
This
awesome.
is all cool.
I mean,
I love it.
so are cassette tapes.
Exactly.
Making, it's
My
becoming,
daughter asked for a heritage. This is hilarious. My daughter's 26. She asked for a really old-fashioned present she wanted for Christmas,
DVD
and
player.
it was a digital camera.
digital camera.
Yeah.
And I said, I've got 3 of those in the loft. So she goes, "Hey, Dad, you're that
Oh
old."
my God, she would love what you have in the loft. She would love it.
Someone legitimately came to me the other day and said, my teenager needs a DVD player. Like, where do I get that? And I'm like, I have absolutely no idea. Maybe eBay. I don't know.
We've sadly come to the end of our time. Oh, let's have one more question.
One more
question. Yeah.
You just mentioned, so should I say my name?
Yeah,
Alice.
please,
Hi, Alice from Germany. Does it work? Yes.
Yeah, we hear you.
Yes. So you just mentioned the frame. So, but I'm not missing a frame for regulations, I think this is what we need also. We need also limitations for AI. Beside the fact, I think it's not very much affordable if it's talking about the energy for the moment. This is another point. We still looking for solutions. And also the other point, I was attending last year a conference organized by the Aspen Institute, this level that it might be not affordable for everybody in the future.
So
this is another point.
I'm glad you asked this question. I've also been to the Aspen Institute twice. It's absolutely fantastic. No, the original one in Colorado, in Aspen. So I love that you asked this question because this hits into a couple of places of things. So first of all, technology is transforming at a very rapid rate. A year and a half ago, we were selling the wares of Edge AI to the landscape in the world, and no one could quite understand what we were talking about. Now, today, we're actually talking about everyone using what is cloud AI at the current moment. But what's actually going to transition over time for both the thing that you mentioned, the cost of it, also the element of the accessibility, the inferencing, and the speed of it, we're going to see more applications developed for Edge AI and utilization where we actually interact with Edge AI. And that's going to transform both the technology, it saves money, sustainability, and cost, as well as the element of you can keep it more private and safe for your own personal information that you don't want to share with the cloud, and you can protect it. But we're going to see more applications develop those types of capabilities. So like your phone right now, you're going to have more of those things available that you're able to keep private, whether it's on laptops, devices that HP makes, or your phone or other types of devices. And I think we're going to see wonderful platforms like Reddit start to create the both on-device AI as well as the cloud AI opportunities and platforms. So I love that you asked that question and the deep thinking and the element of sustainability. It's also going to come to enterprise, where things are going to get closer. The AI computing is going to get closer to the space and not always be all the way up on the cloud. So it's a super good question.
I think it's with any kind of technology, I mean, think of railroads, coal, as we progress, we will of course find a way to optimize, to make it more efficient.
Yes,
That's literally the nature of technology. So, but I agree on a policy perspective, it's true. There's so little regulation right now. It's a very interesting question.
Well, the speed at which it moves also makes it tough. To your point earlier, right? It's the government.
How do you put it back in a box?
Yep.
It's already
Yeah,
up.
yep.
Yeah,
Exactly.
But it's like that foundational new technology, like electricity. We didn't know really what electricity would do until we tried doing stuff. So it's going to be the same.
Yeah.
We're in that real moment. But what I've loved about this, and thank you so much to the three of you, is that human conversations that we can all have. The value is so high. I don't think AI is coming for us quite yet. But we might be, watch Andrew, we might be back in a year and there'll just be 5 bots sitting here.
It could be 5
talking to each other. Yeah.
I wonder what
Thank
happens
you
when
so
we're
much.
that
Thank you so much, Semrush. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Andrew, for
Thank you
hosting
for
us.
coming.
Thank you to Adam.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.